Hi there. Welcome to another live stream of drawing Boulder and Fleet Adventures for Hire. My name is Jersey Drozd. I'm the cartoonist behind this comic, and you can find it at, oh, well, there's the address right there. I just realized that I had my my volume coming in on my Hangout, over my Hangout. Why did that happen? Oh, that's weird. Okay, anyway. So boulderandfleet.com is the website where you can find out more about this comic about a bear and a bird who go on adventures together. I am drawing this in Manga Studio 5, or what is now known as Clip Studio Paint Pro. I do not have the EX version. This version seems to work just fine for me. And I'm going to be inking today for about an hour, see how much I can get done in about an hour. Using Ray Frendon's terrific brush tools. And if you're watching this live, you can communicate with me via comments in the Hangout event page. I also have the YouTube page open for the stream. Oh, that's why I was hearing it. So the YouTube page is open as well, or I've also got Twitter open. I'll try to check these things as much as I can while I'm working, but, you know, obviously it's going to be tough because I'm also inking. But I'll keep my eye open on these things if you guys have any questions. You can, you know, question and comment while I'm working for clarification on what I'm doing. If not, you could just sit back and enjoy the royalty-free music. And I'll probably wind up making a few little comments of my own while I'm working, explaining what I'm doing, if it occurs to me. Although, I mean, inking is one of those things where less so than penciling, but more than coloring. One of those things that kind of uses a lot of my mental cycles, so it's harder for me to talk while I'm doing it. But this is, the reason I'm doing this is to stay in practice, right? So if, like, when I go to Comic-Cons, should I go to Comic-Cons again, I can sketch live and talk with people while I do it. This is tough for me. I would have gotten this in one stroke if I wasn't talking. Now you may notice that at this point all I'm really doing is the outer contours of the characters on this layer. This is a vector layer that I'm making in Manga Studio. And I probably explained this in other live streams, but there's a reason for that, in that it's the way I do the flatting in Boulder and Fleet. And so I'll do just the shapes that are going to be filled with flat colors when I go to the coloring stage. I'll just draw the contours around them. And then I'll do the detail lines on a raster layer that I turn off when I flat. Kind of a, I don't know if it's a weird way to work or not. I mean, I'm sure there's other people who use this application, use it similarly. Now check this out. This is one of my favorite things to do. Because I'm making on a vector layer, I'm going to grab the pinch vector line tool. I'm going to turn up the pinch level all the way. I'm going to grab the circle and just move it like an object. Do you see that? You can move entire lines that you've drawn without doing any selection. Touch it and just drag it. That is so cool about vector inking. I love it. So now that I've got Fleet and Sapphire, their contours ink, now I'm going to go to the what I call the soft inks layer, which is a raster layer. I'll do the details that I will remove, or rather hide, when I flat it. And maybe what I'll do today, just to demo this idea, is I'll flat this panel as soon as I'm done inking it. So you can see how that works. I'll take a little bit of a dry brush and just a couple swipes. Too big a swipe. Just a couple spots in the vector layer. Let's get those. Go back to soft inks. This requires like a little bit of paying extra attention to what layer you're on. But I mean, these days, most of us have used programs like Photoshop or something to do some aspect of illustration. I'm kind of coming at this from the bias of somebody who started their career in the, early to mid 90s, and I did not have a computer when I first started. Having your own computer at home wasn't quite, the norm at that point. A lot more people had them than in like the late 80s, but it was like the idea of buying my own computer seemed like a huge investment. So when I first started, everything was drawn in ink on boards of Bristol that you mailed to the publisher or took to, physically to the printer. So this idea of having to do layer management, I'm used to it at this point, but I do acknowledge that coming from the background that I have, it is a weird way to draw. And having to keep track of layers can be kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. I think at this point it's becoming more and more of the norm. You know that. That's right. Move on to the crystals, which I ink on another layer for very similar reasons. Not just flatting. No, it isn't. Because this is more about doing color holds, which I'm sure some of you know what that is. A color hold is when you make the lines surrounding an object a different color. In the case of these crystals, helps make them look more like crystals. And I may have said this before, but when I first designed these characters with the crystal hair, I thought it looked really cool when I did the color holds on it. And the third page that I drew them on, I was like, oh, I wish I didn't come up with that design constraint, because it does add extra layers to the document and to the art. Creates another sort of thing to keep track of in terms of my layer management, in terms of knowing which part of the drawing I'm on. So there won't be anybody with color holds in their design in the next story. I think I'm gonna not do that, because it's kind of annoying to have to, like what I just did here. I had to scoot around the page to look for, okay, where are all the crystals on the character? All right. Then, so I do, just like the characters, I do the contours. Then I go to Crystal Soft Inks, which is my raster one. And even though there was some, I would classify what I just did as like belly aching, complaining about my design choices. These designs are super simple. It's really not that big a deal. I also made sure to design them in such a way that they were relatively fun to draw. And now that I've crossed over Fleet's wing there, I can go back to Fleet layer, vector eraser. Boom. Erase the wing. The Crystal Soft Inks. Save. Save all the time. Now we're getting to the easy parts. Boulder and Roxanne. Nice bits. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Right on Roxanne's elbow. There's a crystal that I missed. Stresses me. So vexed over having to go back and ink things that I thought I was done inking. Although, seriously, how much time did that take just now? Not much. But it did require me to go back to my layer palette and open that up, which is, I don't know, what's a step? So I've been fighting a war with myself over zooming. As many artists will agree, it does no good to zoom in to 3,000% and work out a bunch of fine details that are never going to be seen by the reader. Right? That makes a lot of sense. Fairly easy to intuit. Now, on the other hand, I do find that certain strokes, certain types of ink strokes, are much easier to do with your arm than with your wrist. And so when I'm doing things like the contour on Roxanne's sleeve here, you can see on the pencil version, it wasn't quite as rounded as I would have liked. And then by zooming in and making that into an action that my whole forearm can engage in rather than just my wrist, I can get a nice, more fluid contour that feels more like what I want. So I do think there is a bit of an argument for zooming in a lot, provided that, and so this is the gut check that I do for myself, is it to do a contour like this that I want to use my whole forearm on rather than just my wrist, or is it because I'm getting really uptight about details, right? All things are just tools in these illustration programs. There is no value, judgment to what you use, how you use it, right? That's an old idea. So see, if I zoom in more on the cuff of her pants, this is something where I can engage my whole arm. Actual drawing. And now, not having gone to fancy art school, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, according to art instructors at any rate. But I'd be curious to hear any classically trained artists weigh in on that. I could have sworn there's like an exercise where you're supposed to be drawing farther away from the page and using your whole arm. Boy, does that feel more natural sometimes. Roxanne's contour's done. Now to do boulders. God, I love drawing Boulder so much because he's so easy to draw by comparison to everything else I've chosen to draw in this book. Got a nice simple design. And something I did that was not intentional, at least at this particular point in time, I don't remember it being very intentional, was not making him a specific kind of bear. I mean, for those who are newer to the comic, it began as just like a simple experiment. Years ago, I sat down and said, like, I'm a busy guy. I'm working on all these freelance projects. I'm teaching. Can I also manage somehow to fit in the production of an 8-page mini comic into my week? And further design constraint, make it something where you have no idea what you're going to write before you sit down to do it, right? Like, you have to sit down with a blank page, no preconceived ideas, and try to work an entire 8-page mini comics, writing, penciling, inking, lettering, and so on, all in 1 week, on top of everything else. And I did it, and I was really surprised and pleased with the result. And it was this comic about this bear and this bird. And I thought that was the end of it. But when I took the mini comics to Comic-Cons, because I mean, it's a book I made. Why not take it and sell it? That was like got a lot more positive response from people than anything else I made, which got me thinking, okay, maybe there's something to this idea. Then I thought about it more, and I realized, yeah, I think there is something to this idea. So this is not something where, like, ever since I've been 10 years old, I wanted to write about these characters. This is something where I sort of accidentally discovered these characters. And so I think where I was going with that is that I think that's what informed Boulder's design, is that I needed something that I could draw fast. I mean, I knew I liked bears. I mean, I wouldn't want to meet one, but in the wild at least. But I think bears are really cool looking. And so I sat down to draw the story about a bear and a bird. And I remember an early draft, because I mean, I spent literally one afternoon thinking about like ideas for this comic. But one of the earlier ideas was it was going to be about 5 bear brothers. It's like, oh, it could be like the Mutant Ninja Turtles, but as bears, like on a quest together, or in a quest for each other. Like, like the bears are missing, like one of the bears is looking for all of his brothers, kind of thing. Maybe, but decided in the end, no, that's two Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's just make this about a bear and another kind of animal. What's another kind of animal? I like birds. But that's like the beginning and end of how much I thought about it at first. So I didn't think about, like, is he a polar bear? Is he a brown bear? Is he a grizzly bear? I just like, well, let's just do like generic bear for now, just to get the story told. And that wound up working to my benefit, because now I don't have to worry about getting his look exactly right. So people say, oh, he's a polar bear. The color was completely arbitrary. I remember when it came time to do the webcomic, one of the sort of design explorations I did was I was posting different pictures of Boulder in different colors, asking my readers or my audience, like, what color looks right to you guys? And Nick Abatzis, cartoonist who I have just bags of respect for, pointed at one that was where I literally, colored him like a bright blue, like not just like white, bluish white, but like really blue. He said, I think that looks cool. And I considered it. I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is a fantasy story. Why couldn't he be a blue bear? But in the end, I decided to make him a whitish blue. People say, oh, is he a polar bear then? No, look at the structure of his face. That's completely wrong for a polar bear. And besides, he talks. So, and I decided he's a great northern bear. He can sort of be hinted to be kind of polar bear-ish, but he's certainly not a polar bear. Who cares, though, right? I mean, what bearing does that have at all on the story? Next to none, really. but this is a stream where you're watching me draw the comic, so you're probably interested in behind the scenes stuff. There's my rationale, right? Almost done inking this panel. And then guess what we're going to do? We're going to flat it. Oh, look at what I did. I forgot to put the soft inks on the crystal there. Dad, blast it. Boom. Now Boulder and Rocks and soft inks. Back to that. To the grass. What else I missed? Aha! Got the outline of the grass on the cliff. Okay. And there we have an inked panel. Let's save. And now let's flat it real quick, just so I can show you how that looks. So I've got a flats layer down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my inks layers. And this is like all the panels. All the panels are here in panel folders in my inks folder. I'm going to activate the reference layer. In other words, I'm going to make the inks, all the layers in the inks folder into a reference layer, meaning that there's certain tools that could interact with a blank layer, but as if all the information on the reference layer was on that blank layer, okay? So then I'm going to go and I'm going to shut off the soft inks layers on all of the layers, all the panel 1 layers. So Boulder and Fleet soft inks, background soft inks, and you can see that all I'm left with is a bunch of empty contours, right? So there's the big channel that Agnes is digging, and then the mine cart that Sapphire is in, and so on. All that's left is just contours delineating empty shapes. And this is also a good opportunity to spot some overlap areas that I might need to fix. Go ahead and erase that overlap there with the background and Roxanne's belt. So now what I can do is open up my color palette and load my Boulder and Fleet color palette. There it is. Grab my paint bucket, and I select the paint bucket tool that says refer other layers and make sure that it is choosing the reference layer as its point of reference rather than all layers. And then I'm going to choose my colors. Let's get Boulder's base blue, or Boulder's dark blue. I usually choose to fill him in. Oh, and I got to go down to my flats layer and flat. Just all I'm doing is just tapping inside of those contours, and it's giving me a near perfect fill. And because I don't have any other details for the flats to compete with in terms of, like, you know, Boulder's eye or any fur that I've drawn on his face, those like soft ink lines, just gives me a nice clean fill. Boulder's vest, and then white ink for teeth. That was another thing I gotta fix real quick. Boulder and Roxanne inks. Get my eraser. Get a little bit of overlap going on there. Got it. Back to flats. Ink bucket. Okay, and so then let's get the background color. So I start with my rocks base color, and I usually just alter it ever so slightly. And then I'm going to choose a slightly lighter version for what was this thing? Like a channel. It's like a trench. It's a trench that Agnes is digging. Select the background color again and fill in the rocks on which Boulder and Roxanne are standing. Get our grass. And this is why flats don't take very long at all anymore. This used to be a really time-consuming part of the process. At least an hour And I used to justify that to my students by saying, like, well, this is a chance for you to get up close and personal with your work and look for any errors or problems. So yeah, maybe you lose that in the trade, but what you gain is so much more time to actually focus on drawing rather than prepping the work for color. All right, Roxanne pants. Boom. Roxanne jacket. Boom, boom. See how fast this is going? This is amazing. Fleet. A little closer. Fleet feet. And then her mouth is usually, I go into like a pinkish purple and then kind of go up here to like a desaturated color. And here's another neat trick. So I'm going to get my fleet base color. There's another fill bucket tool. There's close and fill. And this one you can also set to stop filling at the center line of vector. Like the other one, if I just trace a circle around there, boom, it fills in any transparent spots that I might have missed when I was flatting. Very, very handy. Why did that suddenly change to Fleet's mouth color? Must have accidentally. Oh, I know why. Because I used that special paint bucket tool. Boom. Fill in with that. All right, so now for Sapphire, let's look up her palette down here. Sapphire crystals. Boom, 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 boom. Sapphire eyes, which is the same color as her teeth. Her mouth is a slightly darker version of that. Sapphire skin. Boom. And her arm there. Sapphire reds. The grays of her gauntlet. Then we need a purple minecart. And if you look close, you can see there are some spots I missed here, right? But then again, that's where that really cool paint bucket tool comes in, the close and fill. Now I just drag over top of that, boom, filled it in. And I can get the regular, or for other layers, paint bucket tool to re-drop in around the gray areas to fill it out to the center line of the vector. And if I hide my inks layer, you can see that like this is giving me like really tight flats. Like almost perfect, like I said. But we got a blank spot over here. Build. Is that done? I think that's done. See, that didn't take hardly any time at all. So now I can turn back on all of my soft ink layers, and we got ourselves a finished panel. And this is also an opportunity for me to inspect it a little bit more closely. I'm going to have to fix something here. A little bit of area where blue got filled where it should have been green. There too. But anyway, there you go. You got a flatted panel. How much time have I been doing this? How much time have I got? I got a little bit of time to do another panel. I mean, especially because these panels are super simple. All right, so now we got to make sure to get our blank ink back. Proper pen. And then in our layer palette, we're going to close panel 1 and move on to panel 2. I got my curve tool ruler for this. For certain things like because the characters have such simple shapes, I do break out this tool every once in a while for drawing their heads. Right? And it can go just as simple as a quick drag over top. Both about expediency, about making it easier for me, but it's also about accuracy, keeping the characters on model. Yeah, I want Fleet to have a bumpy head. Look, she's got a bumpy head. This is where having a little experience in Adobe Illustrator or any vector drawing program is a benefit to you. That looks like a smoother curve. Yep. And I can just delete that ruler when I'm done. Boom. And here's the funny thing about working with the Microsoft Surface, and probably any Wacom digitized tablet, because this is the Surface Pro 2, so it has the Wacom digitizer in it. As you get further out to the edge of the tablet, pressure sensitivity acts differently. So I've noticed that as I draw strokes that go towards the upper right of my screen, the same pressure adds up to more pressure, it seems. That might just be my head. But it sure seems like that keeps happening. So I just try to compensate for it by moving my art around the screen a little bit. Bother with her eyes just yet because that's going to be on a soft inks layer. Then once again, we can flat this. Shut off my soft inks layers. So we just have the contours. This is still set as a reference layer because I set it to all ink layers in my inks folder. Go back to my flats layer. And let's choose a background color. Doesn't matter what this background color is going to be because I'm going to show you a really neat sheet in a second here, which may be obvious to some of you illustrators who use layers in your work. Sample color. All right. So then, I'm going to do this. Get my magic wand tool. Select that background color. And I already made the backgrounds for... Oh, are they not all there? They better all be there. Ah, well, it's just covered up right now, see? I already made the backgrounds for these 3 panels. I just made it once and then duplicated it because these panels are all the same viewing angle. Camera shot. It's not a camera shot. Oh. Oops. So... No. Delete. Nope. All right, so I have to select inverse, then delete. What the ding-dong applesauce. Actually, how about we just get rid of the background color here. Delete. There. Now we got the characters over top of the background. So, bit of an obvious cheat, right? I mean, like, who hasn't replicated backgrounds before? But this will definitely speed up in the coloring process and help me keep it under 2 hours of production. The coloring, that is. The whole page, I'm trying to keep under 5. So, there goes panel 2 in the can. And that is the time I have for the day, for today. For watching. And for those who are in Fleet on Patreon, thank you so much for... And thanks for everybody who comic and says nice things about another place sold to me as the person who makes the comic. So, right. Time for me to go. Until next time, I have been Jersey Boulder and Fleet.com. And you're... Okay, bye.